Neil, I want to go ahead and ask you about this new book that you have, The God Solution. Can you tell us a little bit about it, what that book is about?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you for asking me. The God Solution is not a dialogue book. It's not a question and answer book in which I, question the divine. It's really a summary. It's a summation of all the 9 dialogue books and the major and most important messages within them. And it suggests that the problem in the world today is that we are faced with what I've come to call the God dilemma. The God dilemma is this. If there really is a God, if there really is a higher power, why is the world such a mess? Why doesn't the higher power come down here and fix things, or at least help us to fix things? Why does it just stand there and observe, detached observer, and watch us make a total mess of things? If there really is a God, why is the world such a mess? I call that the God dilemma. It's what stops many people from believing in God and what puzzles many people who do believe in God. And the God solution, which was given to me in my conversations with God, is contained in that book, which I called the God solution, because it says, you know what? All you guys need to do down there is to change your idea about who and what God is, to create a new definition of God, and to change your idea about what it is that God does. And I can tell you why God does not just simply come down here and change everything and make everything better, because it was not God's intention for us to be like minions, subjects in a kingdom, just do what His Royal Highness wants, and His Royal Highness will make everything okay for us. The idea wasn't for us to be minions running around and we just obey God and God will make everything better. God wanted us to have the experience of our own divinity through the process of creating our own reality. Mm-hmm. So when we say to God, why don't you fix things? God says to us, why don't you fix things? But when we say, well, but you're the one with all the answers, God says, but you're the one with all the answers. And when we say to God, but you're the one with all the power to make things better, God says to us, but you're the one with all the power to make things better. I gave you that power. You're simply not using it. So I realized, wow, I've misunderstood God all of my life. I was taught all the wrong things, or at least I wasn't taught all there was to know about God. And so now I have a new definition of God, and that's what I offer in the God solution. I say in the God solution, what if we decided to define God in 2 words, 2 simple words? Pure love. Now, when I give a lecture, when I talk in person about this, somebody in the back of the room inevitably gets up and says, oh, Neale, are you telling me I listened to you for 20 minutes for you to tell me that God is love? Everybody knows God is love. Even the world's great religions all agree on that one point. Everyone agrees God is love. I said, no, wait a minute. You didn't hear me say that. That's not what I said. I said, God is pure love. And my friend in the back of the room will then say, okay, what's the difference? The difference is that pure love needs, asks for, demands, and requires nothing in return. Now that's theologically revolutionary, because virtually every religion on the face of the earth teaches God loves us, but you got to do stuff to earn God's love. And if you don't do it the right way, not only will you not get God's love, you'll actually get God's judgment, condemnation, and punishment. You'll actually be sent to hell. And you'll be sent to hell for the smallest offenses. Gary, as a 9-year-old child in the 3rd grade. I was told by a priest who came in and taught us catechism. Every Wednesday, the local priest would come in and teach us the doctrines of the Roman Catholic Church. And one Wednesday, he was talking about the difference between what Catholics call mortal sin and venial sin. In the Catholic theology, venial sin is kind of a spiritual misdemeanor. But mortal sin, you go right to hell. Venial sin, you only go to purgatory, where you'll be there for a short period of time. Then you're released from purgatory and you get to go to heaven if you confess your sin. But if you have a mortal sin on your soul and you die with a mortal sin on your soul and you haven't had a chance to go to confession and get absolved of your sin, you will, in fact, go to hell and experience everlasting damnation. Now, the priest is explaining this to a classroom of 9-year-old children. And what he used as an example, Gary, he said, for instance, children, if you miss Mass on Sunday without a good reason, now, if you're taking care of a sick parent, okay. Or if you're an adult and you have to go to work, fair enough. But if you don't have a good reason, if you just went off to play a game of baseball or play a game of golf, just decided to miss Mass, that's a mortal sin.
Mm.
And if you're hit by a car on Monday, before you had a chance to go to confession and confess your sin and get absolved, you will go to hell.
Right.
Now, Gary, as it happened, that was the one Sunday of the month that I didn't go to Mass. I, in fact, went to the playground because it was the big game and I was the right fielder for our softball team and I couldn't miss the game. So I'm sitting in, it's Wednesday, I'm hearing the priest tell me that I committed a mortal sin. And that if I die before I go to confession, I'm going to hell. That's how upset God is about people who don't go to church every Sunday. And the Catholic Church still teaches that. This is not a 25 or 30-year-old doctrine. I checked it out. The church still teaches to this day that you must go to Mass on Sunday or you've committed a mortal sin and God will send you to hell if that sin has not been confessed and forgiven by a priest. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but what kind of a God would require that? Talk about a way to fill the pews. But if you've got to fill the church with fear, does that make sense to the most powerful force in the universe, which we think that God is? That's when I began to understand. In the 3rd grade, I understood, wait a minute, this can't be the way it is. This can't really be the way it is. There's something here that's not being said. There's more information. And that's when I realized that we have been taught to never question the prior assumption. We're not supposed to question the doctrine. Even to ask the question, could we be wrong about that, is a sin. You're not even allowed to ask the question. Just believe what you're told. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not my understanding of who and what God is. So the result of all of that is found in the book, The God Solution, which shares who and what God really is, in my understanding. It also talks about the process of manifestation and how we actually can use God's power, the power that God has invested in all of us, to produce the outcomes that we say we yearn for on this planet. And so the book is called The God Solution. And I invite anyone who is willing to run the risk of maybe hearing a little bit of new idea about God and life and how it all works, to read that book If they don't agree with it, throw it away, toss it out. You don't have to accept it, but at least open yourself to the question, is it possible, just possible, that there's something we don't fully understand here about God, about life, and about who we are, the understanding of which would change everything.
Hmm. Are you planning to do any e-treats or any workshops on this?
Yes, we do one e-treat, which we call an electronic retreat, online every month. We're doing one upcoming. Our next one is on the 17th of September, and it's about life after death and what happens after you die, and what death is really all about. But we do one every 30 days, in which we explore deeply the messages contained in the 9 Conversations with God dialogues, and what's been explored more deeply in the other 30 books that have followed the dialogues and that expand on their messages.
When are you planning to start up workshops back in Oregon, South Oregon? You're going to be doing that?
I'm wondering whether it makes sense anymore to do that. What the pandemic has shown us is that even though it's all very lovely to sit in a room with 50 or 60 or 120 people, when I go online, I've got 1,200 people.
Yeah.
And they're from all over the world, from Germany, from Russia, from Japan, from Yugoslavia, from Bulgaria, from South America, and even from, hard as it is to believe, Oklahoma. So people from all over the world. And so we're thinking, now, wait a minute, if my intention is to get this message out to as many people as possible and to give people a chance to interact with me personally, because in the online seminars, we have face-to-face interaction, just as you and I are having right now.
Right.
So all a person has to do is raise their hand, I call on them, and we're having a face-to-face interaction of greater quality than we could possibly have if I was in an auditorium with 400 people and the guys in the back row about this big and I'm about this big on the stage. It's a whole different experience. So we're thinking, why would we ever have any more in-person programs like that? Let's just use the miracle that the internet has brought to us.
Yeah.
In the way we're doing right now in this very minute with you.
I do think that you're going to reach quite a bit of people. Personally, I just love spending personal time with you and the other people there at those workshops, though.
Yes, but you know what? The bad part about that as well, if I did a personal workshop in person in Oregon, people would have to spend hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars just to fly there, just to get there. Then they have to pay for the hotel room for 3 days. Then they have to buy food for 3 days. Then they have to pay whatever fee we ask for the program itself. Before they're done, they're $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 into the game. And being on Zoom costs them what? Zero.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
So what makes sense to the soul? Oh, I see. I should tell a person to spend $3,000 to spend a couple of days in the room with me when they can join me on Zoom whenever they want, because we actually do these kinds of programs every week. We have a Zoom program called the Advanced Integration Program, where I talk with people just like I'm talking with you and answer questions just like the questions you're asking every single week of my life. So, you know what? If this technology existed in the time of Jesus, he would not have had to go to the mountain and to deliver his sermon to a couple hundred people on the top of the mountain. He would have just got online and talked to 2 million people.
Well, I think our time is coming to an end here. I want to just ask you one more question before I let you go, and that is, if you had one single thing that you'd like to share with everybody that you think would change their life, what would you think that would be?
Well, I asked God the same question, and I got a remarkable answer. She said, Neale, it's really very simple. Write this down. Your life is not about you. It's about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. But when you understand that, what you do in the way in which you touch other people's lives will touch your own life in such a way that everything you ever wanted can fall in on you automatically. Because when you live your life looking at how you touch other people's lives, you are acting as the divine would act. You're acting as God would act, because God needs nothing. But God does have a desire, which is to give love to every living thing. So I have come to be aware that in the largest sense, your life is about you, because there's nobody else but you. You're all there is. Simply manifesting in different forms. So what I do for you, I do for me. And what I fail to do for you, I fail to do for me. Which is why that guy a couple thousand years ago said really simply, Neale, it's so easy. Do unto others as you would have it done unto you. It's so simple.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
You're
your
welcome, Gary. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for wanting to know the things that we all want to know. You asked the same questions I asked. You're just a couple of years behind me in asking the questions.
I'm so glad that we were able to spend this time together.
I am too. I'm really happy. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Neale, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Blessed be.
Bye-bye. Bless you.